Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and time to tape this games with your time and bandwidth. Today's game is Soulstice. The mantle of classic DMC games has been brought up by an indie dev. Is this throwback worth selling your soul over? Soulstice is available on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, where it will set you back about $40, and a single run through the game will take you around 16 to 17 hours, with the game encouraging replays on higher difficulty, much like the DMC games. So what exactly is Soulstice? Well, it's a 3D action game that is more than a little inspired by Devil May Cry 4, with its fixed angles and stylish combat. You play as both Briar and Lute, sisters where one's a knight and the other's a guardian ghost, who are sent to a city overtaken with evil to purge everything nasty and figure out what is going on. I'm gonna be honest, the story didn't really hook me, because I am here to kill and kill alone. And kill I did, as Soulstice is action-focused first and foremost, with combat in the vein of the Devil May Cry games. You have your primary attack on your main weapon, and a variety of up to 6 swappable side weapons, all of which have a handful of small combos to learn. Side weapons are good against specific enemy types, such as bows being good against flyers, fists being good against armor, etc., which means you will be switching to them often based on the current combat situation. The ghost Lute can also attack, and this is where combat gets interesting. First off, Lute can counter a whole host of enemy attacks. Did you press B fast enough once a prompt appears? Early enemies have very generous timings, but as you progress and things get more chaotic, mashing B quickly to respond to off-screen threats while in the middle of a combo will be tricky. Secondly, the better you do combat, the better the unity between Lute and Briar becomes. This grows by performing perfect counters as well as doing damage without being hit. The stronger the unity, the more Lute will auto-attack with stronger attacks, as well as you'll unlock some new combos, and when full, be able to basically devil trigger for a massive temporary damage boost. By pressing the triggers, Lute can also emit either a red or blue field, which as the game progresses, there will be enemies that can only be damaged when the correct field is up. And there is plenty of platforming and interactive elements within the world that will require using one of these two fields as well. Having a field up will take her energy, however, and if she should overload, then you'll be without her for a few seconds, which can be pretty devastating. It's worth noting both characters have different currencies by which to upgrade, with Lute's trees being considerably more in depth. Levels themselves are generally fairly basic, linear affairs with some old school fixed camera angles and a variety of secrets to find. The game does add more environmental hazards and puzzles as it progresses, though the core design doesn't really change. And that is pretty much it. Soulstice is an action game that is basically a spiritual successor to DMC 4, with its primary focus on combat and some light traversal and platforming in between them. So what did I like about Soulstice? Well, I did really enjoy this game's combat. It is a bit mashy, but it has a ton of different weapons, counters, and learning how to balance Lute's abilities adds a whole other layer on top of it. On that note, the skills of your partner, ghost, friend, sister, Lute are really fantastic and could lead to some genuinely different combat strategies. I found this portion particularly engaging. And lastly, the game does have a surprising variety of enemies that require different strategies to take down, with the game keeping adding new foes all the way to the end. When it comes to the bad, this combat is not nearly as tight or as technical as a Devil May Cry game. It tends to lean more towards being mashy than precise. Think more the DMC reboot rather than a mainline DMC game. Additionally, the level design, particularly its emphasis on platforming, can be pretty frustrating. Fixed camera platforming has always been pretty dang bad, and this does not really do anything to alleviate that pain. And speaking of camera, it can be an absolute nightmare in combat. Even though you get free control of it, it always feels just a little too close and never provides enough information about enemy locations or incoming attacks. The camera is probably your actual greatest foe in this game. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale. Must play, maybe consider, don't bother. I think Soulstice is a maybe consider, but is a hidden gem. While Soulstice is really rough around the edges, I actually kind of loved it. It does a great job emulating that classic DMC feel, and adds enough unique stuff of its own to the mix to keep it fresh. While it definitely does not have the technical combat depth or polish of those types of games, it is still an extremely fun, stylish, button mashy good time, and I'm really happy that we are getting throwbacks to these kinds of games. If you have any affinity for old school DMC or God of War, you should give Soulstice a look. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you played or heard of Soulstice, Xbox Store just randomly recommended it to me. I had somehow never heard of it, and I had a pretty great time with it. So thanks, Xbox Store, I guess. But regardless, let me know in the comments and then go check this one out.